Welcome back, everybody, to the Nosebleed Sports Podcast. I am Chris Witt, and with me, as always, is the cracker thug himself, Mr. Adam Schmidt. Adam, how are you, cracker thug?
I knew you were going to do that, and it still caught me off guard somehow. So funny.
Adam, we have got to start this podcast off with, for now on, here's the deal. We've heard, if you listen to a couple podcasts ago, Adam started the podcast off. We wanted to tell a little story. Adam put on the COVID-19, so he's been trying to throw a couple of those LBs off by walking, right? Gets out. It's nice outside. Get a little brisk walk in. We heard all about the love of his life, who, by the way, this week I was rolling through Cheviot, and I know for a fact that I saw that same man who was telling you how sexy you were as you walked down, because he was with the same old lady that you described, and he was the most flamboyant man I've ever seen walking by him, not by himself, 5 steps in front of the lady he was with. Kept turning around looking at her. But anyway, I saw him. Hey, I say go for it, dude.
Yeah. They got to take a chance.
Hey, take a chance with that one, dude. I mean, he obviously doesn't have a car. He obviously relies on his grandma to take care of him. But, some people just need a man to support them. And, maybe he just hadn't found the right man yet.
You know what? I'm open for a sugar daddy. You want to pay for me to, I'm trying to quit my job. So, I mean, if you want to support me too, you can support your grandma, support me. We'll all live in that little apartment right around the corner from where I live. And
good to go.
We'll be one big happy family.
All right. So that being said, this is a sports podcast, and we will get to sports. We have sports coming up. But for now on, every week, we are going to start you off with an Adam Schmidt walking story. I decided just now that we're going to call it Walking with Adam. No. Walking with the Cracker Thug. Adam, get us started and tell us why we're going to call this Walking with Cracker Thug.
I get to see in the neighborhood that I live in and in surrounding area, I get to see and hear a lot of funny things. And by funny, I usually mean a little trashy, there's just, it's an area that has gone downhill, I would say, since I have been alive, and I've lived in this neighborhood my entire life. And I still love it, and I still choose to live here. But you do see a lot of people that are a little down on their luck, or just down on their wits, down on their brains, maybe a little bit. So, I see things all the time. I do have funny stories all the time. So I would love to share some of them. This one, the one that you're talking about, I'm walking yesterday, and I see, I wear the mask and I wear it under my chin until I see somebody coming, in the distance. And then when I see somebody, a lot of times I'll just cross the street if there's nobody on the other side of the street. And, every single time I'm going through my head, are they offended that they see me crossing ahead of them, like I'm trying to avoid them? And that whole thing goes through my head every time. But when
let it be known right now, whether COVID is going on or not, Adam is crossing the street when somebody's walking towards him.
That's right. No, not always. And it's not, it's just because if I can still have the mask below my face and, be that far away, I'll do that. But anyway, I don't always get to do that. So anyway, I see a couple of people way up ahead coming toward me, pull the mask up in plenty of time. And I see they have walking between them is this little tiny kid, like 1.5 years old, maybe. I'm really bad at guessing ages, but that one wasn't too hard.
So probably 5 years old. Probably 5 years old.
This little girl could have been anywhere between 1 and 11, I would say.
So I trust your guessing of this kid's age, because you have 3, one niece and 2 nephews.
That's
and
right.
They range in ages of 1 to 5 or 6.
Now, 2 to 5 now.
2 to 5.
2 to 5 now. So
2 to 5. So you got a pretty good idea of an age. So
I do.
continue. You got. So we have 2 women and one little tyke.
One little girl, cutest little girl in the world. I love little kids. They're so adorable. This little girl was the cutest thing. Now, the one gal was actually holding the little girl's hand, and they're all 3 walking. The other one is like kind of like doing little dance moves and stuff and trying to get the little kid to do the same thing as they're walking toward me.
So TikToks, yeah, going through the TikTok routine.
Maybe a TikTok routine, yes, sir. As they're approaching, though, I notice the first sense that I use is my sense of smell, because I smelled a skunk. Okay. And
Sure.
I don't think there were any skunks around. So as I got closer, I realized that the young lady who was doing the TikTok dance moves, was also smoking a jazz cigarette, we'll call it.
Was it a marijuana cigarette? Was she smoking a marijuana cigarette?
It was. I was trying not to curse on the podcast, but yeah, we'll go with that one.
And she had herself a fat blunt.
She had herself a Philly blunt that she unwrapped and added a little something to and wrapped it back up, I think, or however they get that stuff in there.
Walking down the street of Cheviot, Ohio.
Wide open in Westwood. In Westwood.
I was in Westwood, so it was in Cincinnati, Ohio.
So it was officially, within the city limits. Still illegal. Either way. But
still illegal either way.
So she's smoking. I don't know. Maybe maybe all 3 of them are passing it around.
But maybe she's got a medical card.
She probably has glaucoma. She probably has anxiety. She probably has a good reason to be doing that, right? So I had the opportunity to get a little secondhand high for a moment, and I pulled out a shirt, not a new shirt, but a shirt I never wear because it always fit me weird and it doesn't quite feel right. It's kind of that starchy, you feel some shirts are a little stiffer.
It's thick.
It's thick. It's a little
like that thick cotton. Thick cotton.
Yeah. Yep. THICC. The double
C. Yeah. Ooh, the double C. I think that girl. Was she thick?
No. Well, the one who looked like maybe a little more responsible was thick, I would say, with a K. That's the not as good kind, from what I understand. And the other girl was not at all. She was thin. But in her face, boy, it looked like she probably was smoking a lot of stuff and doing some other, I don't know.
Maybe a little methamphetamine to go on top of that.
Looked like she was in good shape, but also her face was a little weather beaten, we'll say. So
little leather face,
a little weather beaten.
I call those leather faces.
Leather face. Okay.
Yeah.
I see what you mean. Okay. Anyway, this gal maybe had a little bit of a rough life, but she seemed to be doing fine. I was nice that she was out getting some exercise, and and so I had this. It was a Celtics shirt. Okay, it's the full logo with the old guy with the gold in his hat and his leaning on the cane. The old Celtic guy. Beautiful logo on this shirt, and I hardly ever wear it, so it still looks new, even though I've had it for a long time.
So you were looking crisp. That thing was crisp.
That thing was crisp.
Is it white? Was it white?
It's black.
Oh, it's black. Ooh, okay.
My favorite color. I wear a lot of black. So as we're passing, I mean, I try to, just give a nod. I have my face mask on. I think I may have muttered hello, which is usually what I do. And then I immediately realized they didn't hear you, Adam, because you don't speak loud enough to begin with and you're wearing a mask. But I at least try to nod as well, so they just know that I'm trying to, that I'm not
friendly.
Yeah. So they kind of just glance at me or whatever as they're walking by. And as they're passing, I hear the one gal say something, and it took a second to register because at first I didn't even realize she was talking to me until I heard the end of it. And then I replayed it in my head. And what I thought I heard was something along the lines of, "Hey, cracker thug, I like your shirt. And I at
You called her.
first,
You called her
since I heard
that
I like your
gal.
shirt, I didn't process the first part of it at first. So I just said thank you. And then as soon as I said thank you, I'm already in the process of re-going through what she just said, of hearing it again in my mind. And I think that is what I heard. And
She said, "Hey, Cracker Thug, I like your shirt." Adam said, "Thank you."
I probably to her sounded like thank you. But and that probably is what I sounded like. But anyway, that was a special moment. And then I had a laugh for the rest of my walk, just replaying that over and over in my head. I mean, I had
So
other
from here
stories
on
on that
out,
walk, but that was the one that stuck out the most.
write the rest of the stories down, because every week we are going to have walking stories with Cracker Thug. And I will be calling you Cracker Thug for a very, very long time. And listen, for all you PC people out there, I'm not calling him a cracker in a bad way. This is we're just having fun. All right, so don't cancel us because I use the word cracker. But that man right there on the other side of this Zoom call, that, my friend, is a Cracker Thug.
Yeah, I am, if I've ever seen one. I don't know what that means, but okay.
On that note,
we're gonna that'll be my only story for this week, and I will certainly have another one for you next week.
I'm so excited for stories. Oh, walking stories with Cracker Thug, aka Adam Schmidt, are coming up every week. We've got a new segment for the podcast. This is getting better. This podcast may turn into the Nosebleed podcast. We may just take sports out of it, and we may have a Mount Rushmore. We may have a comedy segment, walking stories with Cracker Thug. We may just blow sports out of this and just make sports an every once in a while part of the podcast.
Hey, we can talk sports, or we can pick like one little sports thing to talk about or something like that. But yeah, I mean, we've got plenty of content, pal.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I'm in love with walking stories with Cracker Thug. All right. So let's do a little bit of sports, because there's some crazy stuff going on in sports that nobody's thinking about right now, right? We're in that middle area, right? The draft, the NFL draft isn't here yet. It's a week and a half away. Everybody's talking about that. If you listen to the podcast, you know we don't care about the draft. We'll talk about what happened after the draft. I got no problem with that. We'll bring on Andre Edwards, talk about the people that came in, talk about some free agents that might have hit for the Bengals. That's about all we'll do with the draft. So this is kind of a middle ground for us, right? The NBA is playing, but it's in that slow period. Major League Baseball started a couple of weeks ago. Now we're kind of getting into the long, drawn-out, slow period of Major League Baseball, which we will talk a little red legs here in a little bit. So we're going to just find a couple oddball stories out there, and Adam's going to let us know what is going on in the real world of sports.
The first thing that really piqued my interest was this Joe West, Paul Duca story. So Joe West, and baseball fans know Joe West, and that's not a good thing, because you're not supposed to know umpire names. I mean,
you are not.
We
know two umpires.
Names.
You know two umpires.
Exactly.
Don't you? On the count of three, Joe West is one. On the count of three, we're going to say the other one. Ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3. Angel Hernandez.
Right. Right. Of course. Everybody knows that. Anybody who follows baseball semi-closely knows that. And we probably follow it close enough to know some other names, just because they do so, their umpires stick around for a long time.
Yeah.
But Joe West and Angel Hernandez are the two most famous, and usually not for good reasons. Angel Hernandez is known for being just the worst, like a really bad umpire. And Joe West is, I don't even know if he's a bad umpire, but he just likes to steal the show. He likes to make sure he's seen.
Joe West is not a great umpire. Okay. He might be just a mediocre umpire, but it's the stealing the show for him. Angel Hernandez is exactly the same thing. Angel Hernandez might be the worst umpire in Major League Baseball, but the reason you think that is because he's always trying to do the exact same thing. He will almost antagonize a batter to start talking back to him when they're behind the plate. He has looked around at cameras to make sure the camera was on him, then turned around and went at the player. They've got things caught with Angel Hernandez that are crazy. Him and Joe West, absolutely awful. Paul Duca, used to love him, catcher for the Dodgers. What happened? What's going on? I have no idea what's going on with this.
So apparently maybe a little over a year ago, Paul Duca on a podcast told a story about a time when Joe West was umpiring behind the plate, a game where Billy Wagner came in to the game.
Okay.
All-time great closer, Billy Wagner, right? One of the greats.
Hold on a second. Billy Wagner was a Houston Astros closer for a million years. Paul Duca caught for the Astros?
No, it was I think it was with the Phillies, I want to say. It was either with the Phillies or the Mets. I think they both played for both of those teams, I want to say.
Okay.
It was one of the other.
The Phillies that could be for yeah, I think I remember Billy Wagner playing for the Phillies maybe. Yeah, that could be.
I think it was with them.
I don't know.
Either way, Paul Duca was catching Billy Wagner. Obviously, it was the end of the game. And he comes in, Billy Wagner comes in. Paul Duca says he goes out to the mound when Wagner comes in to talk strategy or whatever. And Billy Wagner tells him, set up a few more inches inside. I'm getting the call from Joe West. And he's like, what are you talking about? He hasn't given us the inside corner all game long. He's like, I'm going to get the call. Set up even more inside. Paulo Duca goes back, sets up 3, 4, 5 extra inches off the plate. Takes a couple off the plate and says they are not even close to being strikes. Gets the strike call. They win the game. After the game, he goes to Wagner and says, what's the story? What is going on? Why did you get those calls from Joe West? And why did you know you were going to get them? And he says, Billy Wagner told him when we come in or when Joe West comes in town, he loves classic cars, loves old cars. And I have a 57 Chevy. I think it was. I think I just heard Chevy. I don't know exactly what kind.
When everybody thinks of a classic car, 57 Chevy, it just rolls off the tongue.
Right. And he said, I let him drive it when he comes in town. And he gets me a few extra inches. So Paul Duca tells that story. And Joe West files a defamation lawsuit against Paul Duca saying it's not true. I never did that. And the big thing was, number one, apparently, I don't know if he actually testified, but apparently Billy Wagner was asked about this and said, and denied it. He said, no, that never happened. That's not true. And then the big thing was they proved that Joe West never umpired a game behind home plate where Paul Duca and Billy Wagner were the battery.
What?
The game, there was never a game that Joe West was behind home plate when those two.
So Paul Duca is just a habitual liar, just for no reason.
Thing up.
What do you call those people that just lie for no reason? Like, there's no reason. He was on a podcast. He probably has a million stories, and he just made that up.
Yeah, apparently. So Joe West filed him for defamation of character or whatever it is. And he said one of his reasons was, so first of all, he got $500,000 out of this lawsuit, $250 for the defamation or whatever, $250 for like the cost of repairing his name. So he has to hire a PR, like a professional PR firm, to help build his name back up and revive it from this slander.
Joe West, his name has been slander for 25 years.
For a long time.
He's been dying for this to happen.
He's been dying for it. Yeah. So one of the biggest reasons that he said was, now, this is the season we're in right now, 2021. This is Joe West's last season. He is retiring at the end of the season. He needs 60 games, I believe it is, from right now to break the record for most games managed in the major leagues.
Probably not managed, more like umpired.
I would say more like umpired. I think you're right.
Okay. Yeah. Because if he were to manage 60 games starting from today, he will have only managed 60 games.
A total of 60 games, right? That's excellent math, by the way. I needed you on that because I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's elder math, buddy.
Elder math, you know what? And I didn't pay very close attention. So,
hey, you speaking of getting an inch or two every once in a while. Freshman year, I'm about. Oh no, let's finish this up. I'm gonna after this. I've got a story.
I'm gonna hurry. I'm gonna hurry this up because I want the story. Okay. So anyway, Joe West wins $500,000. He wins $500,000, and he says he's trying to get in the Hall of Fame. Joe West specifically talks about the Hall of Fame, and he is filing this lawsuit because he believes that there's a chance that story told in the, and everybody in the universe has access to that, could possibly keep him from entering the Hall of Fame. I don't know if that's the Umpires Hall of Fame or the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame.
No, that's Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. There's quite a few. There's a few umpires in there.
So Joe West wants badly to get in there. He's going to get in there because if it's the Hall of Fame, he's the most famous umpire ever, probably.
Without a doubt. I was just going to say, there's no doubt. If there is an umpire that's going to be there, it's going to be Joe West. But that is so the whole reason. So Joe West is, like you said, known for making the show come to Joe. The game is all about Joe West. The best umpires are the umpires you've never heard of, but everybody knows Joe West because he wants the show put on him. And the whole reason is, once again, for even having this lawsuit is to just put all eyes on him and put him in the Hall of Fame. Unbelievable. I feel like that's reason enough to have let Joe West lose that.
You know what would be a fun game to do on this podcast?
What's that?
Do one of those things where we each have to name an umpire, like current or former. And like, I have to name an umpire, you have to name another one, I have to name another one, you have to name another one. And then the first person that gets to where they can't name another one loses.
I don't know that I can go past those two.
Yes, you can.
No, man, I mean, I probably know them if I hear the names, like, because I've heard them so many times. They say the umpires before every game that we watch on TV and everything.
Yeah.
But I don't know that off the top of my head I could say anyone except Joe West and Angel Hernandez. Angel Hernandez is the first one that comes to my head. And then Joe West.
A YouTube search of Angel Hernandez is some of the best comedy you will find on the internet.
Oh my gosh.
Some of the strike zones are comically bad.
Yes. Yes, they are. I'll definitely, if you get a chance to do that, look that up. All right. So I may get a lawsuit filed after this story for defamation. And I may not be able to prove it, but I don't care. I don't have $500,000 for you to come get. So
before you start this, I love that you're about to tell me a high school math story while you're holding a pencil. I love that.
Yes. I love pencils. I love pencils.
You got a rubber pencil? Nice rubber
pencil. I got a
pencil.
rubber pencil. Yeah, like rubber pencil. I love pencils. I use a pencil for work all the time. I usually keep that thing back up behind the ear. You know, most people think that looks goofy, but I don't care. Good place for a pencil. So my mom hates pencils with a passion, like is scared of pencils. You bring a pencil and you just put it anywhere near her face, and she starts freaking out. It's really weird.
Yeah, letophobia.
Something like that. So anyway, yes, I love pencils. I once had a guy tell me a good salesman always has a pencil because no matter if it's too hot or too cold, sometimes it gets too cold, a pen doesn't work. The ink freezes up. Pencil, always got a pencil, always able to write. Anyway, so speaking of pencils, math, algebra 1 that you take your freshman year, okay? So I'm not an artistic fella by any means, right? I mean, I still draw stick figures when I'm drawing like if somebody tells me draw a person, I draw a stick figure. My kids are 5 and 7 and they draw everything better than me, color better than me, inside the lines, everything. So my freshman year, instead of taking art class, I made the decision to take beginning band. right? You take an instrument, you play an instrument, you learn how to play it. You don't have to march. You don't have to do all that goofy stuff. You just learn how to play an instrument. So I learned how to play the saxophone. I've taken beginning band. A wonderful teacher by the name of Mr. Geis is the band instructor guy. He's, throws his hands around. Great guy. Love Mr. Geis.
I can rip a phone book in half.
Literally can rip a phone book in half. We had the power people, like all these huge, strong people they came to the school and they like preach about God and how great you can be, and then do all these athletes in action, do these feats of strength. And then they rip a telephone book in half. And all of a sudden the whole place erupts and everybody pulls Mr. Geis out. We're at the wrestling gym. You might have been at Elder at the same time, but they pull Mr. Geis. He's up in the wrestling gym, up in the stands with us all watching this. Pull him down. Mr. Geis is about 6'4", 125 pounds soaking wet. And all these huge, strong people and athletes in action just rip the phone book in half, like, oh, well, if you believe in God, you can do anything. And Mr. Geis grabs a phone book and tears it in half. Greatest thing I ever seen. The skinniest man in the school rips it in half. They were the athletes and athletes in action were speechless. They had nothing to say. Couldn't say anything. Anyway,
yeah, because don't forget, because Mr. Geis is a Satanist. He worships Satan. So you do not have to believe in God to rip a phone book in half. Obviously, that's not true.
Defamation.
I do
defamation
not.
Lawsuits. Just
I don't have
coming.
500,000 either. A total lie, total joke. Mr. Geis is a God-fearing man and a lovely man.
God, I love Mr. Geis. All right, I love him. But this is a true story. So, I take Algebra 1 my freshman year as well. So I have Mr. Geis for 2 classes. He teaches me algebra and he teaches me how to play the saxophone. So not a lot of people are into the band, right? There's not a lot of people that are into being in the marching band. So a lot of they try to get these people in beginning band to be in the marching band their sophomore year. So I am failing algebra.
Okay.
So where Billy Wagner was getting 3, 4, 5 inches, I needed 3, 4, 5, 6 points, 8 points maybe on my final exam to pass algebra. And I don't get the number I need. I miss it by about 5, 6, 7, 8 points on my final exam. And I stayed after, waited for him to grade it because I knew it was going to be bad. And he looked at me and he said, Chris, we could really use another person to play saxophone in the marching band. And I looked at him and I was like, all right. And he passed me. No summer school. I just had to do a year in band. It was a year. I did a year. I sang the national anthem into my saxophone for a year.
Like it was a microphone.
Like it was a microphone. I didn't know how to play it. So we stood out on the football field and I just said, oh, say, can you see? And I just moved my fingers around. Anyway, this could be defamation of character, but Mr. Geis 100% gave me like 6 points on my final exam. So I would have enough on that final to get myself to a D. So I did not have to take summer school.
I had the same thing in geometry. I came up, I want to say like maybe a point or two.
Geometry?
With Mr.
That's Mr. Lewis. Mr. Owens.
Mr. Owens.
Mr. Owens. Boy, will you like lemonade too? You want to drink some lemonade on the weekend? I don't know why he said that. I think he was talking about beer or something. Well, you been going out and drinking lemonade all weekend, boy? He was John Wayne. Mr. Owens was John Wayne.
Yeah, he was.
Reincarnated. Anyway, so tell me about
that guy.
Did you have, so your notebook was perfect because you could get a 0 on every single any test that he gave you, you could get a 0 on. You could not know anything. But as long as you had your red blue, black, and green pen on point for his notes, and your notebook was perfect, you pass that. You passed.
Those stupid notes. Yeah, I did. I mean,
That's
I
the only
did it how
reason
you want
I
me to do.
passed geometry. That was the same thing. I passed that because of my notebook, not because of my grades.
I would think I was at least a couple points short at the end of the year, and I think he just gave it to me.
Because he didn't want you. He didn't want you to take summer school.
Nah.
Look at this little boy. Look at this little boy. You wouldn't make it in summer school, son. You'd be somebody's boyfriend.
That does sound like something you would say. We were still, I think we're old enough to still have a few teachers that were still left over that would say inappropriate things sometimes and would not get in trouble.
And would not get in trouble. Yeah, there was definitely a couple. We had a couple. I'm not throwing names out on that one.
I was just about to, and then I'm like, yeah, okay, we got to.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that because some of those teachers were some of my favorite teachers, and they've already had defamation of character lawsuits go out for them. So I feel for those guys. I feel for some of them. I'm not gonna throw it out to them. I'm not gonna make them any worse. Hey, Chief. Anyway.
Yep.
He might be dead now.
Old Chief. A lot of them might be dead now. I don't know. A lot of them are dead. Actually, I know for sure. I still get the alumni newsletter magazine.
Yep, I do, but it goes to my mom's house. I've changed my address on the website. I've actually called into Elder and changed the address, and it still goes to my mom and dad's house every single month. The purple, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So that's my finishing Joe. So these are supposed to be quick topics. We said we were going to do quick, boom, 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 boom topics. And once again, like usual, I've blown it out of proportion. I'm sorry.
No. Well, I'll quickly bring up. So this next one, not that it doesn't deserve much time, because this is probably my favorite story of the week. We've had some really good stories so far. Even forget the Joe West one, just our personal stories. But this Hope Trotwine, pitcher for the University of North Texas softball team, did something that no one in NCAA Division I softball or baseball history has ever done. And that is pitch what they're calling a perfect game. That means that she struck out every single batter that came to the plate. They only play 7
How many
innings.
innings do they play? 7 innings.
7 innings. So she had 21 strikeouts. Nobody hit the ball. Nobody put the ball in play. She didn't walk anybody. As a matter of fact, not only did she not walk anybody, she did not reach a 3-ball count on any batter.
Holy smokes.
Didn't get to 3 balls. She had business to take care of. Apparently it was
You think she can pitch? You think I can get her birth certificate updated and get her on my 8U baseball team?
She could probably, yeah, she could probably do that. I guess she's pretty good normally, but obviously has never done anything like this before. And I saw a couple interviews. She seems like a really, really sweet kid, and she, really humble about it and everything, and just, taking it all. She's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe people are like talking about this on national media. I was on ESPN, and like she, that kind of.
You struck out 21 straight batters. Yeah. I think you're gonna make ESPN there, big girl. Yeah. I said big girl. I don't even know what she looks like. I didn't mean it that way. I meant like she's big time.
She's she was good. She was good. She was
very good.
She was a good player. She's a good player, and
for now on, whenever something comes up, I'm just gonna look at you and I'm gonna go CC or CK.
Are you asking me about Hope Trotwine?
I'm just gonna look at you and I'm gonna go CC or CK.
Okay, that'll work. All right.
CC or CK.
So anyway, good for her. Very impressive. No, you know what? If I'm being honest, CC. She's a pretty gal. She's a pretty girl.
Hey, you don't have to elaborate. You don't have to elaborate. Okay. CC CK.
CC. But anyway, she really impressive. really impressive. And look, we don't follow, college softball or anything like that, but it doesn't matter. That's impressive no matter what level you're at, no matter, man, woman,
Oh, it does.
hermaphrodite,
If
any kind of anything. Um,
anyone that's ever walked onto a field, a baseball field, a softball field, it's unprecedented. I've never heard it being done. This is the first time I've ever heard it being done, unless you're watching The Scout, the movie The Scout with Brandon Fraser.
yeah.
Did it for the Yankees.
um, yeah, I don't know. This just popped out at me. I think I saw this story yesterday. It must have been a couple of days ago when she did that. And I was just blown away to strike every batter out. And I mean, the thing that gets me is the no 3-ball count. I mean, that's so impressive.
You like what? Is she a junk ball pitcher? She's got to just be throwing gas, right? You got to be throwing gas.
She apparently throws a lot of pitches because there was an interview they were talking to her about. She has a wristband, and baseball teams, especially at that high school and college level, use those all the time. Even infielders to do different strategies.
Yeah, but
shifts and stuff like that.
that's plays. That's knowing what to do with the ball, knowing what, if there's a runner on first, what the catcher's going to do, first and third. Like
Right.
that's usually not a pitch calling thing.
But it is for her. So she was saying she said, I have a wrist guard for all the pitches that I throw, so I can check, so they can call out a number. The coach calls the pitches, I guess, gives them to the catcher, and she drops it down or whatever, and she checks her. So apparently she throws enough pitches to have a chart on her wristband.
Have you ever looked up what pitches are called in softball? They got like drop ball and
Rise
like
ball is
up
my favorite
rise
one.
ball. Yeah, they got all kind. You ever seen one of those? I guess because everything you throw overhand falls. These girls throw this ball and it'll start at your ankles and end up at your waist, and it's like, how in God's name did she do that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really fun. It reminds me of one of my favorite things. I think it was on This Week in Baseball. Jenny Finch used to have a segment on there, and she was
Did you
nasty.
see?
She was
And
filthy.
she struck out so many major league players on that. I
She,
watched her strike out Barry Bonds and Mike Piazza.
I believe for a long time, I don't know if it continued on after that, but for a long time, nobody even touched it. Like nobody even tipped the ball until she pitched to Sean Casey the one week. He's the
Really?
first guy to get a piece of it. He just fouled it off, but it was a big deal because nobody up to that point had even touched the ball.
Because
So
she would stand at where a softball pitcher was at,
yeah, which is like
and they were
12 feet
saying
or something like that.
they were saying when you take the distance into consideration and the speed of the pitch, it equated to like 113-mile-an-hour fastball. Yeah, that's why nobody could touch it.
That's why you can pitch your rise ball too, because you're not on a mound. You're just on flat ground, the same as
Yep.
same plane.
Yep.
But,
And the ball's not coming from over top; it's coming from underneath. So the spin's different.
Right. So anyway, good for Hope Trotwine. Might have to on, if you have the ESPN app, you can like flag specific players, like even college players, and get alerts for what they do. I wonder if I can find if they have Hope Trotwine on there. You can go to.
I bet they do now.
I have to check that out. Keep an eye on her. Okay, so that's that. I think we just wanted to jump into the Reds. I know this is a universal podcast, and we talk about as much stuff in the world and in mostly the country, but sometimes, I mean, we're from Cincinnati, so
we're from the
like
Natty, man. We both live in the Cincinnati location, locale, suburbs. Adam lives in a slightly different city, although Adam's city that he lives in is surrounded by the city of Cincinnati.
That's right.
So there's a city in Ohio. There's a city inside of a city. Never seen it before. I don't know if it's in any other place, but Adam lives in the city of Cheviot, Ohio, which is inside the city of Cincinnati, Ohio.
That's right.
That being said, we're a Cincinnati-based podcast.
Yes. And my home address specifically is 2841. No, I'm just kidding. It's not that.
That being said, we do like to talk about the Reds, just like we do about the Bengals and Xavier basketball and a little bit of UC basketball. We bring in a little regional flair into the podcast. So the Cincinnati Reds got off to a fireball of a start. It was freezing cold on opening day. They lost and then won. Was it 6 straight?
I think was it 5? It was 5 or 6.
Yeah.
5 or
So
6.
Since then, things have. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Since then, things have gotten a little have evened out, if you will, where we have gone. Let's see, the Reds, they've lost 2 in a row now.
A couple days ago, they were 7-3 with the 3rd best record in baseball.
Yes, and now they have lost 2. They've lost 4 out of their last 5 games. So where we wanted to kind of talk about how hot they were, because they had been on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 game winning streak. They were 6-1. They then lost 5 of their next. Sorry, they lost 4 of their next 5 games. So this team, we knew they weren't going to go 161-1, right? That wasn't going to happen. We knew they'd fall off. They're going on. It's a short West Coast. What do you call that?
Road trip,
short West Coast road trip. And when they do that for 50 years, the 37 years I've been alive, they have always been terrible on the West Coast trips. So the fact that they got 2 wins out of this West Coast trip, I'm not too terribly upset about. But now we get Cleveland and then Arizona at home, and things get a little bit more fun. So really excited to see what happens from here.
And not only do they come back home and play a couple series at home, but they now get Sonny Gray back. He has not pitched yet this season, and he apparently is going to be back for his next start. I didn't see when yet, but he's apparently coming off the DL in the next couple of days, if he's not already. So
is he doing any rehab? Well, I guess rehab hasn't started. That doesn't start till May, right?
I think he already threw some simulated games or something like that
down in Louisville. Okay.
Yeah. Or probably at the Prasco Park at that facility, because I think they're doing that until the minor league stuff starts. I'm pretty sure.
I thought that they were right until minor league started. They were doing everything in Louisville. And then once minor league starts, then there is no Prasco Park anymore. It just goes back to the minors. Then the minor leagues are back up, and then the guys will just go down to AAA to make their rehab start.
I gotcha. Okay.
I think the Prasco Park thing is over. I'm pretty sure that's what Bobby said when he was on with us. Bobby Nightingale Jr., fan of the podcast, on the podcast quite a bit. USA Today, son of the great Bobby Nightingale. This is Bob Nightingale. This is Bobby Nightingale Jr., Reds beat writer. I think he's better than his dad.
Oh yeah. Way better than. I'm just kidding. His dad is a legend in the baseball writers community, and Bobby's going to be there too. I mean, he's already fantastic. I love his coverage of the Reds. But yeah, I think you're right. Either way, I think he did whatever he needs to do, because I just saw something today, a quick little headline about Sonny Gray coming back. I'm not positive about your boy Muscles, Mr. Muscles.
You're talking about
Michael Lorenzen. Yep.
Well, I always want to call him Jared Lorenzen.
Yeah, another guy that had big muscles too. Just couldn't.
Jared Lorenzen did not have big muscles.
You know what? I bet he did underneath.
You think he had big muscles underneath all that flab?
Yeah.
Look, he was a big boy. He was a big boy.
Real big guy. Yeah.
Real big guy. I met him one time.
CC or CK?
Oh, that's both. Can you be both? Because that's both.
I don't know. I don't know the
See, yeah,
meaning of either one, so sure.
you were the one that explained the meaning of them earlier in the
All right,
podcast.
maybe I do.
So Jerry Lorenzen, Kentucky, former Kentucky quarterback and NFL quarterback, came into my work when his first year, I think, in the NFL, the 1 or 2 years he spent that he got when he was there. Maybe he was still at Kentucky, I don't know, but he had all blue Kentucky on, and he was a big son of a gun
Wait,
when he came in.
back then, we talking Hobby Lobby or are we talking?
No, this was Remeyer Lumber. Like my first year at
Okay,
Remeyer Lumber, I gave him a few 2x4s or something like that.
okay, probably broke him right over his knee or whatever. I don't know.
Probably, or his belly,
Yeah, yeah, swung him
because
and
it wasn't
broke
his abs, it was his belly.
broke him over his back like Glenn Braggs. Um,
Is that that's a rest in peace, right? That's a
Jared
we
Lorenzen.
should be, yeah,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
yeah, I don't mean to talk bad about the guy. I mean, he
No,
was
no.
great. I loved every second of him. He was a funny guy. He knew who he was and what he was, and he made himself. He did a lot of fun things with it. So
Yeah, a little brush with greatness there at your
yes,
first job. Very nice.
there you go, Bob. That's exactly right.
So anyway, getting back to the Reds, the big thing so far is the way they've hit. The way they've hit the ball is
Yeah.
completely the opposite. We've mentioned it a couple of times already, but completely the opposite of how they were last year. Way underperformed. Everybody did pretty much. This year, almost everybody is overperforming. I think most of these guys are not going to be able to maintain this level of hitting throughout the rest of the year. Everybody's going to kind of level off, but then you have Votto, who had a rough start, and Suarez, who had a rough start, and hopefully those guys will raise a little bit, and I'm sure they will.
Mm-hmm.
And Votto is already starting in the last few days to do that. So, that stuff's going to level off. Right now, they're top 3 or 5 in everything in baseball, offensively. Pitching wise, specifically to have the baseball leader in home runs and I think RBIs for at least a few days, being being the third guy on the depth chart in left field, who comes in as the third guy. If you're counting Shogo Akiyama and Jesse Winker as 1 and 2 in left field, the third third guy on the depth chart got some playing time because Shogo's still hurt and Winker was
Yep.
sick for a little while. Tyler Naquin has been crushing the ball, and so has Nick Castellanos. So those two alone are really carrying the offense. But then Senzel's had some really good games. Tucker Barnhart's hit the ball pretty well.
Jonathan India is right now the leading rookie of the year candidate.
Yeah, I think no question, because he was leading for at least a day. Was leading the league in RBIs. I'm pretty sure
He's top 10. He's only 3 RBIs off. He's in the top 10 in RBIs. He's hitting 333. The guy's unbelievable.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of guys who are playing very, very well. And like I said, I think it's going to even out, but hopefully then the pitching will too, because they've had some great starts. They've had a few duds, but some really good looking starts. Wade Miley has been a very pleasant surprise. He was like 5th on the depth chart among, at opening day. I think he was the 5th pitcher. So, and he's had 2 gems. So, with Sonny Gray coming back, stick him in there, and then eventually Lorenzen's going to get his chance, and we'll see. I don't know if I'm super confident in his ability to be a really good starter all year long. I can almost kind of see him making his way back to the bullpen, but I think that's totally fine, because I think you have guys who, number one, whoever gets bumped out, Jeff Hoffman or whoever. And then you also have guys like TJ Antone. And I think Lucas Sims could step in and be a starter, although I think they're committed to using him at the back end of the bullpen. But there are a couple other guys who are, I think, capable of eating up, enough innings to keep it rolling. So either way, I hope Lorenzen comes out and is just sets the world on fire and is awesome. But we are expecting back those 2 guys in the rotation. And then right now, I think the pitching is most of the in the league, they're kind of middle of the road or so, maybe just a little bit above that, in the like 10 to 16 range in most stats. So they're doing enough to win games. And, like you said, I think it's exciting that you get Sonny Gray back and they're coming back home for another homestand here.
I love it. I love this team. I love what's going on. I'm totally good. I think this team is going to be fun to watch. I don't know that this team is going to win the division. I don't know that they'll I think they'll make the playoffs, whether it is winning this division or as a wild card. But this team is going to be fun to watch. They've got high energy. We talked about energy. We've talked about these things before.
Did we talk about that?
Believe we both believe that that certain energy is good, certain energy is bad. But I think we agree for the most part on those things. We've had conversations off the podcast outside of that. Anyway, I'm just super excited. I just can't wait to watch these Redlegs continue on. They get to full strength. Votto's hit a couple bombs in the last two. He hit 1 home run on the road last year. He's already hit 2 in the first 10 games. So good for him. We've got good things happening. Positive vibes only.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Let's move on, Chris, to our Mount Rushmore this week. Mount Rushmore this week is vacation destinations, and it's specifically ones that you have been to. So your own Mount Rushmore vacation destinations. And I had a little bit of trouble with this. I got to be honest with you.
Okay.
Because my experience with the vacation I'm finding is playing a big part in this. So it's not just the location, but it's the experience. It's the reason for going. It's the, because I'm not a beach guy. I don't just take vacations to beaches and sit on the beach all weekend. I don't do that. So usually my vacations are specific for I'm going somewhere for a reason, to see a certain thing or whatever.
Yeah. So most of your vacations are long weekends.
You're right. I don't take, I very rarely take vacations for a full week and go somewhere and spend a week in a hotel. And I just usually don't do that. So I'm going to warn you, you might not love, or I might not be good at saying like, okay, I went to this place, and some of these things are repeats too. Like I went to the same place, but they were for different reasons. I think that's where I'm getting myself in trouble here, but I think I'm just going to go with it.
Okay.
And if you don't like it, feel free to yell at me. Feel free to tell me.
Dude, this one was yours. This was your choice. You got to choose the Mount Rushmore this week.
All right, I'm saying no rules on this one then.
No rules. Let's go.
You want to go? Why don't you go first?
No. It's already started. You're up.
You want me to go? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. I got to put, for one of them at least, I got to put this Indiana basketball trip that I went on with my dad and my brother one year, long time ago. It was a sort of a Larry Bird / Indiana basketball trip. Indiana is one of the top states with a basketball history. Basketball has to be the number one sport in Indiana. Hoosiers it kind of tells the story a little bit of what you think of with Indiana basketball. It's like small town, everybody rallies around basketball, farmland and stuff like that. All of Indiana is not like that. Indianapolis is the exact same city as Cincinnati, so we know it's not. But all over Indiana, it's a big basketball state. Okay. We went to French Lick in West Baden. French Lick, where Larry Bird grew up. West Baden's where he went to high school. They're like neighboring towns. Just to see, there's like a street named after him. There's French Lick is actually a pretty popular vacation destination for like weekend trips for a lot of people.
Bed and breakfasts and stuff like that, right? Don't have a bunch of stuff like that.
Place. Yeah. So anyway, we went there specifically for Larry Bird. We didn't stay at the bed and breakfast or anything like that. We slept in the front yard of Larry Bird's house that he grew up in. That's a lie. We didn't do that. But there are a few different like home videos that they made of, NBA endorsed home videos of Larry Bird. Just one specifically that that I had for a long time and watched it 10 million times. So on that thing, they show videos of French Lick and West Bay, just shots or whatever, as part of a highlight reel or something. So we saw
Yeah.
like this outside like playground basketball court there outside the school, and that we saw on this video, and just I don't know, we just kind of we went to this playground outside the high school we went to and shot and stuff like that. Anyway, very nerdy stuff, but we did that.
That's not nerdy stuff. That's cool stuff.
We went. Thank you.
That's goosebump stuff. That's goosebump stuff right there.
For me, yeah. For me, it is. We went to Indiana State, where Larry Bird went to college, played at Indiana State. We went to Indiana, where he actually first went for like 20 days or whatever, and then left. And also where, back then I was probably in my early 20s or mid 20s or something like that, and I was still a big Bobby Knight fan. It was maybe he might have still been there, or it may have been just after he left. But anyway,
he's probably Texas Tech.
Yeah, it was, just the history of Indiana basketball. We went there, walked around both campuses. It's kind of fun to walk around. Oh, that's another one I got to write down. Kind of fun to walk around college campuses you've never been to. Some really nice campuses. Anyway, that's one of them. Indiana basketball trip. Another one. I got to put this is hard because it's two different places really. Boston and New York, Cooperstown, New York. So this was a trip that well because you went on it with me.
It was an awesome trip.
It was an awesome trip.
It was kind of our senior trip. Me and your brother's senior trip.
That's right.
We home run derby. We got to play a home run derby at some college softball field. I don't remember where it was at, but we went out and bought a bunch of baseballs, had a few wooden bats in the back of the car, and played some home run derby.
That was so fun. That was in New York, somewhere in New York, I think the day before we went to Cooperstown, I want to say.
Yep.
And then we went to the Hall of Fame, of course, and then we went to Boston after that and saw a Red Sox game. And when the Red Sox were that was 2002, I think. So Red Sox were really good then. They played the Oakland A's, who were even better probably at that time. And do you remember the pitching matchup we saw?
I don't remember the pitching matchup, but I remember the shortstop matchup. It was Nomar Garciaparra, my favorite player at the time, and Miguel Tejada was the shortstop. And I, to this day, goosebumps right now. I get goosebumps right now talking about this. To this day, I tell people I've never seen faster hands than Miguel Tejada. Mm-hmm. He caught a ground ball and the ball was out of his hand before the ball was in his glove. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Very cool. It was Derek Lowe versus Barry Zito.
I knew it was Barry Zito. Yeah, I remember Barry Zito. But Derek Lowe at the time was a stud.
Two of the very best in baseball pitchers. And this was was it August? I want to say it was in August.
It might have been. All I remember is we got to Boston and we stayed in our hotel and either watched or listened to on the radio the game that night when we got there. We didn't get to go to the game that night we got there. Woke up in the morning, did a stadium tour, which was unbelievable. The greatest thing I've ever done. Walked on Fenway Park, got to peek in behind the green monster where they keep score and stuff like that. Unbelievable. Went up into the press box and we had our red stuff on and we got to make a little joke of it. They had not won a World Series at the time, right? They won that first World Series in 2004. And there's a couple of jokes made about the 2000 or the 75 World Series, who did win that 75 World Series? Because the guy was talking about, the view down the line of from where we were standing. It's pretty much the same view. You see the home run, the Carlton Fisk hit in 75 in Game 6. And just randomly, I was like, so who won that World Series? I'll never forget saying that in the back of that room. The guy had a little smart thing. It was a little fun deal there. But we ended up, the coolest thing about that whole trip was after our stadium tour, We walked directly to where they were just opening because back then Boston sold out every game. Every game was sold out. You could get there when they opened the ticket window. Yes, before the internet. Okay.
Yeah.
So you actually had to go to the window to buy a ticket, but you could get standing room only in obstructed view seats. And we got there. We were the first people there, first people in line. And the lady at the window was so great. She said, I've got these seats for you. They're considered obstructed view, but really all we did was put a row of seats in where like people walk across in between innings. We were like 10 rows behind the dugout. Normally it's a walkway. They just stuck us in there. We had a little bit of extra leg room. And the only time anybody walked in front of us was in between innings. Couldn't have been any better.
Yes, one of the best ticket experiences I've ever had, and it couldn't have come at a better time. Our only, maybe our only chance to be at Fenway Park in our lives. We didn't know then, and yeah, they were perfect. I want to say they were $55 a piece. I for some reason
I feel like there was some that sounds right somewhere.
And for those seats at that time in Fenway Park, a steal.
Absolutely. Oh, those were $150 a night seats.
Yes, absolutely.
Every bit of it.
Every bit of it. Oh my God, such a good trip. Such a good trip. So okay, I'm sorry. I've got to continue on so I don't take up the entire night doing this.
No, that was my fault.
No. That was fun to reminisce about that. We could do a whole podcast probably about that trip. I got to put in, God, man, I have so many of them now that I'm thinking about. I'm going to put in the trip my brother and I took to New York City specifically to go see Conan. So he and I are big Conan O'Brien fans. It was 2005, I want to say. He had no money. I had very little money, but I got tickets are free. Tickets to go to the show are free. So I got tickets like 6 months in advance. You don't know who's going to be on the show or anything like that. You just, you get tickets, you apply for the tickets or whatever, and you get them, and that's the date. And so we got the tickets. I bought 2 plane tickets, the cheapest plane tickets I could find, got on the internet and found a hotel. I don't know anything about New York or New York City, especially back then. So we stay at a Howard Johnson in Jamaica, Queens.
Oh, so awesome. Love that.
We had bars on the window of our hotel room. And we went there. We did not rent a car. We didn't, I mean, in New York City, most people don't drive anyway, but we didn't have a car. We didn't really know where we were. So we had to figure out, once we got there, we had to figure out how we were going to get around, how to deal with the subway. You kind of take the subway or you get a cab, really.
Right.
There was no, Lyft or any of that kind of stuff back then. So we have our tickets to Conan. We go to Conan. We're going to try to see some other stuff while we were there, but we didn't really have a real plan because we didn't really have much money. So anyway, we go, we walk around, we get to Conan early, and just kind of walk around in Manhattan there and around Rockefeller Center and everything. And we get in there, we get in line, I don't know, 2-3 hours before, because it's first come, first serve. You don't have reserved seats. So we get there and we are like the third people in line. We're way up front. So we get in and we're down. We end up, it's, stadium seating. It's first of all, the studio was way smaller than it looks on TV. So they do it like they round it and they do tricks basically where the cameras make it look a lot bigger, way smaller. But we get in, it's like stadium seating, and there are like stairs going, like 2 sets of stairs going through the middle. So there are like little parts on the first part of the stairs that there's no seats. You know what I mean? Like the where the stairs come up. So we are like in the little section where there's like 4 seats, and then the whole rows open up. So we're like in the second row. And so we're right up front. It's awesome. Amazing seats. his warm-up guy comes out. Jimmy Pardo was his name. He's a really good comic. I ended up seeing him. I saw him earlier in Cincinnati, one of the first comedy shows I ever went to. I think the first one. So he's his warm-up guy. He comes out, and then Conan comes out after that and kind of like warms the crowd up and just kind of like walks up the steps a little bit and just kind of says hey to a few people and stuff and makes a couple jokes and stuff. Really cool. I mean, I was on the aisle, I think, and he walked right like this close to me, like brushed my ear with his pants pocket. But I don't know.
Marty McFly walking around out there with his pockets hanging out.
Yeah. No, anyway, that part was really cool. And then even cooler part that I wish I could have handled better. As soon as the show's over, his head writer, name is Mike, something that doesn't matter. His head writer comes out and says, like, looks at the first few rows or whatever and said, hey, I have tickets to the Brooklyn Cyclones game tonight. AAA affiliate of, I can't remember, but Brooklyn Cyclones. So we had no other plans. We didn't know what we were going to do. And we were like, all right, we'll take them. It was for that night. I mean, this was, he records in the middle of the afternoon. So this is 3:00 maybe or something like that. And the game's at 7 or whatever. But we have no idea how to get there or anything like that. So we have to try to figure out, and we couldn't. Like we started looking at a map of the subway system in New York City. And for some reason, I don't know, I was an idiot or something, and I just couldn't figure out how we were going to get there. And then we were like, okay, so then afterwards, how are we going to get back? And we wanted the trip be able to like plan all out because we didn't want to just be stuck in the middle of nowhere and not know how to get home, or, you know, if the subway system stops at a certain time or whatever, we didn't know how to get back. The very first part of the trip, so this is New York City. We're two meek, mild people in our early 20s,
wet behind the ears,
greenhorns, if you will. And we get a cab from the airport to our hotel. Okay. We didn't know how far it was, but we didn't have any other options. It was that we didn't know how to get to the subway or how to get. So we just get a cab. The cab driver is just this aggressive dude. He gets our bags, throws it in there, gets in the car. We get in and we tell him the address. He starts driving. We almost get in 15 wrecks on the way there because people drive like maniacs there. Okay. Just like inches away from hitting every other cab there.
Adam driving through downtown Boston was the greatest thing in my life. And I've heard that Boston and New York are exactly the same.
Oh my gosh. It was a nightmare. I mean, I was glad I wasn't driving, but I was scared to death. I mean, I probably broke the handle on the door from squeezing it so tight. Anyway, we finally get to the hotel. He drops us off. It's the total's like $22, $22.50 or something like that. I only have 20s. Okay. I hand the man, he says $22.50. I hand the man $40 because I only have 20s. He says, okay, thanks, gets in his cab and takes off. Apparently, I gave the man an $18 tip for a $22 ride. Okay.
That's so great.
So, and you know, I didn't have the
you weren't gonna say, hey, can I please have my change, Mr. Man?
Right. So anyway, that was I forgot to add that the first thing that happened to us in New York was that. So anyway, we end up unfortunately not going to the Brooklyn Cyclones game because we couldn't figure it out in time how we were going to get there and get back and all that kind of stuff. I think now I could have pulled it off. I would have just made sure we got there. Anyway, sure. But we went back to the hotel.
Also would have stayed at a little better hotel.
Yeah.
The internet, right? We have the internet now. So the internet changes things.
We went right. So we ended up going back to the hotel and we just like took a walk down the street that this hotel was on, which was not a good idea. And we just went to this little convenience store, this little tiny bodega or whatever, this little, stop and go or whatever. And we got some cookies for dinner and we went for some cookies and some pop or whatever. I'm sure probably Dr. Pepper or something, and went back to the hotel and ate our dinner. And and I think that's all we did on that trip. But
That's so great.
it was fun. I got to see Conan live. It was one of the worst shows. Like Conan is amazing because it doesn't matter who he has on. I just think his comedic sensibilities are so funny. It usually doesn't matter. But he had on, if I remember right, it was Al Franken. Okay, so he's a comedian, but I think he was transitioning to politics at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So he had Al Franken on. So I'm like, okay, great comedian, but you know, I don't really know Al Franken that well, and he's getting into politics and stuff. And then the second guest was a kid who was in like a documentary about ballroom dancing, like this 10-year-old kid.
Oh, that's so
It
great.
was awful. It was awful.
That's so great.
So anyway, I
Who
think
was who was the musical guest?
the musical guest, I can't remember, but I remember it was a song that was kind of popular at the time, and I cannot remember the name of the song or the band. Maybe my brother would remember that, but I remember as we were leaving, we found out the band was coming back on to play again because they messed up the song. When they played it for us on the show, they apparently messed up the song. We couldn't tell, but they wanted to play it again. So they had the audience leave after the show was over, and they came back out and filmed them playing it again and just cut it together for the show that night.
Did you watch the Conan O'Brien show that night?
Yes.
In your hotel room. Could you see yourself?
Gosh, I can't remember, but you know what? I think I had my dad tape it on
VHS tape it. Yeah, VHS tape it.
I'm pretty sure I still have it somewhere. So I'll have to go back. I'll have to find a VHS player and go back and watch it. And, I don't know. I can't remember if we were on there, and I think we might have. I think they panned across real fast or something when we saw each other or we saw ourselves. But anyway, that was that trip. That's number 3. Number 4, I've got my family and I went to Barry Larkin's Hall of Fame induction in Cooperstown. So same place, but it's between that. We took a trip and went to the Orioles ballpark and the Washington Nationals ballpark within a couple of days of each other. The Orioles ballpark is my favorite ballpark I've ever been to.
Yeah, I've heard great things about Camden.
Camden's amazing. I went to Memphis for a Memphis Grizzlies game. I loved every second of that trip. I went to Chicago for a Bulls game. You and I have both been to a million Indiana Pacers games. So it's between those, and the only other one I can think of is we went to, about my passion and my dad's passion for the television show, The Andy Griffith Show, and we went to Mount Airy, North Carolina. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make that my fourth one, because not only did we do that, we went to Mount Airy, North Carolina, where Andy Griffith, the actual Andy Griffith, actually grew up, and what Mayberry is loosely based on, I guess.
Yeah.
And the whole town, it's a very small town. Like the whole town's basically a museum to that show.
It's a museum to it. I just had a guy send me a bunch of pictures of him next to Andy Griffith statue down there. He went to a wedding in that little town.
Cool. So yeah, but we did that, and also we did like a college tour. Basically, we went to the University of North Carolina. We went to Duke. We went to Wake Forest. I think we stopped real quick at NC State, I want to say. But we went to 3 or 4 colleges, and we spent a bunch of time at UNC and Duke, just walking around the campus and looking at everything. 2 beautiful campuses. And we went to, we actually walked in, we actually got inside to Cameron Indoor, and they were doing some kind of camp, some kind of basketball camp. And we somehow
that's cool.
Just looked around. And that was really neat. Yeah, that was cool. And I think we got to,
have you been to Butler? Have you been to Butler?
Never been to Hinkle Fieldhouse.
I went to Hinkle a couple years ago. My dad was unbelievable, but I always think of the way you hear him talk about Cameron Indoor. It's like, it's pretty small, right? It's not big, and everything's on top of it. Like, I think of those 2 places as being the same. I don't know. I'll tell you, I loved Hinkle. That's an ancient treasure. That place is ancient. We'll just say ancient.
I will make it to a game at Hinkle Fieldhouse. I would love to do that someday. So anyway, that's going to be my fourth one. You are up, pal. What are your four? What is your Mount Rushmore?
What were your four? Well, just real quick,
So
grace through them without the stories. Just what were they?
Indiana basketball trip, Boston / Hall of Fame trip, Conan NYC trip, and North Carolina
And
trip.
then the North Carolina trip. Okay. So, man, those are so different than what I have because I've got a beach, and a beach. I go. My wife's mother is my mother-in-law. My wife's mom is a travel agent, so we go on. We used to go on a cruise like every 2 years. Obviously, it's been a little different here lately when we started having kids and things like that. But we did a cruise to, and one of the stops was Panama, and I got to go to the Panama Canal. They were building the new canal back at the time, but I was at the old Panama Canal and I got to watch a ship go through the canal and get lifted up. And it came into the canal. They had there couldn't have been like a foot of space on either side of this giant ship in this canal. And they got like these two like bobcats on either side of the canal that are hooked to it, and they just drive straight at the exact same speed and pull that ship through the canal. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Wow. And then we also, and that same, I don't know if it was in Panama or not, but we did she didn't do it, but what do they call it? A canopy zip line. Like you're literally, like you do zip lines all around, right? But this was in the canopy of the real rainforest, of the actual rainforest. Yeah, that was unbelievable. Guy was driving us in a van. Talk about the city of New York and feeling like you're going to die in a car crash. This guy's driving a van in the rainforest on these roads that are the size of the van. And then on the side of the van, it's soaking wet mud road and it falls off into nowhere. And he's sliding like crazy, going, the scariest thing. That was, I thought I was going to die on my way up to the top of that. So, but that was awesome. Unbelievable views from the top of that. Unbelievable. That was cool. I went to Hilton Head. I feel like I have to put Hilton Head in just because it was the vacation that I went on for like 13 straight years, like 16 out of 17 years of my life or something crazy. Like, we went to Hilton Head every single year with the same family. Matt St. Clair, the St. Clairs, Matt was my age. Trisha was like a year older than my sister, 2 years. I can't remember, something like that. But from the time I was like, I don't know, 10 till I was like 27. I can't even tell you how long it was, but it's been a long time. We still do little weekend trips with that family. But anyway, Hilton Head has to be on there just because I feel like I know that Highland better than anything in the world.
Also,
Key West.
Is that not where you, maybe it's not. Is that not where you got engaged, maybe?
No. I got engaged in another place on here. So Key West was, I've only been to Key West once. We were going on a cruise. It was the first stop of the cruise. It was like where the cruise went off at or something, or maybe it went off in like Miami, but it stopped in Key West in Florida. Loved it. That was one of the best times I ever had, was in Key West for that one day or a few hours. Loved that. Key West, part of another cruise again. And we went on a all-inclusive. That place and where I went, problem is, I don't know if it was in Mexico or South America. So I don't know where it was at. I can't remember where we went. That was fun. But my last place, number 4, is going to be the Gulf, anywhere in the Gulf of Mexico. From like Floribama. You ever heard of Floribama? So like Perdido Key, Florida. You've got Gulf Shores, Alabama, Perdido Key. You got Destin, Panama, Panama City, all the way through that whole Gulf. White beaches, clear water. That by far, that's just where I love being in the Gulf of Mexico. I don't care where it's at. That is my favorite destination. And we were in there. I believe it was Perdido Key when I asked my wife to marry me. Such a great story. got the, before we go on this vacation with her family, ask dad for your hand in marriage, tell him how I'm going to do it, blah, blah, blah. And so I had this ring in my pocket. I had it every day down at the beach. I had it in my pocket everywhere we went. I had no idea how I was going to ask her to marry me. Zero plan, none. Just figure out I'll find the right place. We go to this go-kart place. Okay.
Oh no.
Yeah. And I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, my mother-in-law goes, "Oh, you two take a picture by that sign." And it said something like, some goofy, like,
wear a helmet or you'll die.
Like, go-kart, thanks for coming, or something like that. I don't even know what it said. But I was like, I don't know why. Just all of a sudden, I was like, well, this is it right here. Everybody's looking at just us. And I stand there next to the sign with her, and I get down on my knee. Everybody's got their cameras up to take a picture of us. I get down on my knee and pull that out of my pocket, and my wife never even looks at me. She's looking at everybody with the cameras. And my mother-in-law goes, like, is just blown away, because I didn't tell her at all. The only one that knew was my father-in-law.
Oh.
And Erin, for some reason, thought there was a bee or something by her, and because of the reaction her mom had, it starts freaking out, going, "Oh my God, what's going on? Oh my God." She is freaking out like crazy. The pictures are hilarious. I'm on one knee staring at her, and she's got like the funniest faces as she thinks something is going on. So great. Oh man, such a horribly timed. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea. Anyway, so yeah, those are my 4.
Very nice. Very nice. Way better work. Slimming down the stories for everything than I did, for sure. So I apologize for that.
No way, man. That's what it's about. It's our podcast. We can take as much time on whatever we want.
That's true. So let us now take some time on. Oh, by the way,
this will be fast.
Speaking of Gulf of Mexico, that's another reason it's one of your favorite places, is because you love golf, even though I know it's not spelled the same. But congratulations, Lee Trevino. I was right on the winner of the Masters. Good job.
And neither of my people who had a small baby together for Justin. What was it? How did I put Dustin Johnson?
Dustin Thomas, maybe.
Yeah, Dustin Thomas. That's what it was. I took Justin Thomas and Dustin Johnson and made a baby as for who I thought was going to win. I really thought Justin Thomas was going to be the guy, but he just he was there. He was there, just couldn't quite pull it off. Congratulations to the very first Japanese winner of the Masters, which is really cool, because he would never even be where he's at, except for the Masters decided years and years ago that they were going to try to get a bigger draw into the sport of golf. And they started letting, they had an Asian Masters, or like an Asian Open, and the winner of that got to play in the Masters. They got an exemption to be able to play in the Masters. Hideki Matsuyama, I can't even say that name.
Former New York Yankee.
What's his real name? Matsuyama is the guy's name.
Hideki Matsui was a former Yankee.
Oh yeah, I was just saying. No, I said that right, didn't I? Yeah.
Yeah, okay, no, you did. Yeah. You did.
Matsui.
I was just making that joke to myself, because I watched a lot of the Masters. Actually, I was making that
joke
all weekend long.
Wow. Yeah. So Hideki Matsuyama plays a great. I mean, there was zero intrigue in it. Like, he could 2-putt at the end, and he did. And he could 2-putt and win, 3-putt and tie, and he 2-putted. Trust me, he wasn't missing that second putt. But he won that. He got to come over, and because of how well he did there, he got a couple more exemptions and got to start playing over here, and ended up becoming a really good player for 10-15 years. And now he's got a green jacket, and I don't know if it's that long. I don't think it's been that long, but anyway, now he's got a green jacket. And will probably end up being one of the highest paid golfers, will make some of the most money, because apparently golf is huge in Japan, and he just became the face of Japan. So he's going to make a ton of money in endorsements, a ton of money overall, and he's probably going to win a lot more tournaments. So he's already won quite a few tournaments, but he's going to win another major or two. So congratulations to him. But
I'll tell you what, the kid Will Zalatoris,
that was fun. Wasn't it fun to watch him play?
He made a little run. He got to within a stroke, I want to say.
Well, he lost by a stroke. He lost by one stroke, but
he ended up losing by one stroke.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, he never really had a chance going into that last hole.
Okay.
They pulled him up. He was out there practicing. Like they showed him back out on the driving range, like getting some swings in just in case something happened. But when Matsuyama got up there and he was, 3 strokes up or 2 strokes? He was 2 strokes up, I think, or something like that. And he hit one. He hit a really good drive, and that was pretty much they walked over to him. They basically show him grabbing him, saying, "All right, it's time to get off this drive. You ain't winning. You ain't gonna get to play. He's got it. It's over." So it's kind of cool.
Yep. All right. Congratulations, Hideki Matsuyama. All right. So now, speaking of Lee Trevino, the fictitious winner of the 2021 Masters that I just made up.
Yes.
His great-great-grandson, Steve Trevino, was our comedy special of the week here. My Life in Quarantine. So one of the actual, quite a few people have kind of put out specials now since the pandemic has started. You know, a lot of them have looked a little bit different. His was this place outside. People had masks and everything on.
Austin, Texas.
In Austin. So yeah, maybe nobody had masks on then, but
they all did. No, everybody did. They all had masks on. Don't be hating on Texas so bad.
Well, before that, everything opened back up 100%. But anyway, okay, I went first on Mount Rushmore. You got first on Steve. If you want to go first, on Steve Trevino.
Absolutely, I will go first on Steve Trevino. So I gotta say, old boy came out, right? He was hot. He was sweating. It was so funny. I loved every bit of his hot sweatiness because it just seemed he was a little bit uncomfortable, because you could tell he hadn't been doing much work, right? A lot of this was stuff that we come to find out now was probably stuff that he had been working on his podcast. Was like the only way that he was getting to do any of this work. So we turned this on. It's an hour-long special, or so we thought. It was about 20-minute special. All right, 20, 30-minute special is all it was. And I got to tell you, it was good. I wrote a few things down, right? She made the bed with me, and I don't even know. I wrote some of the stuff down. There was some funny jokes. He had some really good stuff. He was talking about his wife pushing a football out for a baby or whatever. Like, couldn't imagine. He's like, if I had a hockey puck, if I had a baby hockey puck come out of there, I am never having another baby. Cracking me up, little things. So the blowing the yard, he was talking about blowing the yard, he kept saying blowing the yard, blowing the neighborhood. I knew that was going to come back around to what it came back around to. That was good. So there was a lot of parts I laughed at. I thought it was pretty good. The special part was pretty good, but it wasn't that long. Then it turned into him doing a live podcast with his wife, which apparently he does this podcast with his wife since the what do you call it? The pandemic started. I've never heard of this guy, but apparently he's semi-famous because people know who he is. So I don't know. I didn't think it was bad. His wife was lame. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, his wife up there, she wasn't that good. You know, you could tell he was the one that is in show business and she's not.
Well,
he made fun of her.
An actress.
Oh, really?
That's what he said. Yeah.
I don't remember hearing that part. Anyway, she's not very nice to him. Makes him do a lot of stuff. Pretty funny. There was some really good stuff in there about Home Depot. That was really funny. But I haven't wrote a number down, so I'm talking myself into a number right now. They brought her dad out there, which was her dad and his mom were good. The neighbors that came out to do the podcast thing, there was no need for them to ever even come out. They were horrible. All that being said, I don't know how to rate this because it wasn't like a special. It was a special and a podcast that was forced into. I would watch this guy stand up. I would definitely watch this guy stand up. I think he would be pretty funny. He had pretty good timing. He brought jokes. He turned jokes around, made them go full circle over time. All stuff that I love in comedians. We've talked about the way different comedians do things, and I enjoy that, kind of the old school original way of like if you were to pick up a book on comedy, say this, do this, turn it around, bring it back. That whole thing is he did a good job of. I'm gonna go out. I don't want to give it a really good rating because it wasn't that long. He was short. I'm doing a 3, just a 3.
Okay. I am writing
but I'm not
down...
going lower than that because it wasn't that bad.
So you're thinking about that. You want to go lower than that. Otherwise you wouldn't have.
I want to go lower than that because of the podcast part of it. Like I didn't need that.
Yeah.
But if I'm just rating the special, it might have even been a little higher than a 3. But because of that goofy podcast thing that they threw in at the end of it, as we're doing a podcast.
Yeah, podcasts suck.
Yeah, I'm going with a 3. Yeah, just final note. Go ahead.
So I wrote down for you the number 3 and 6 E's after that. 3. All right.
As I said it, I wrote 3 and I put a decimal point and I just started making a circle. So I went 3.
It's not a 0, it's a circle. It's a 3 in a shape. So that could be
3 in a shape.
Interpret that however you want.
Yep, that's exactly right.
All right. Okay. You know what? I'll start at the end there. I was like, what in the
Hold
world?
on. Can I say this real quick? I wrote a bunch of stuff down. My favorite part of this was exactly what the whole pandemic has been. Everyone is really good about social distancing and everything like that until it becomes a problem in their life. When he said, I couldn't fish because I wanted to go fishing with her brother, and 3 days later, her hairdresser is in the backyard, and she told the hairdresser, don't do a really good job. Make it look like I did it. That made me laugh because that is the story of this pandemic. Everybody is perfect at what they do, social distancing, wear a mask, I do everything. But it's my mom's birthday, or it's so and so. They find a reason to make it okay to do whatever they do, and I'm right there with. Look, I put my hand up. That's me, 100%.
Yeah. Yep. It's you're doing the right things until you decide you're not going to, and then it's a mental health issue. It's I have to have the human touch. I have to have that. So
that's right.
Anyway, all right.
You know what? Says Adam, who got a girlfriend, who somehow came up with a girlfriend during the pandemic.
I did, but I did make her the only person in my life that I did not wear a mask around. The only person. Okay. So, except when we kissed, I required a mask for that. It was 2 masks like that, and that's because that's
something to that.
Oh, I mean, lips to lips.
Too much.
Oh God, cooties and everything.
Let's get real. Let's get real here. Come on, that's not happening.
All right, so going by what one of those last things you said, that thing where he was talking about his wife brought her hairdresser in and snuck her in the backyard and they were doing the hair out back or whatever. The best part of his part of the special was, I thought, when because you talked about the Home Depot thing, and he ended up having some lady that worked at Home Depot teach him how to build a mantle. And then he ended up sneaking her in the backyard to come and build the mantle for him.
Don't do it perfect. Once again, turn the joke around. He said, don't do it perfectly, right? Don't do it perfect. Make it look like I did it.
Exactly.
Just like she said to the hairdresser. So he did a very good job at that.
To me, that was the only decent joke in the whole thing. I thought this guy was not funny at all. I'll be honest. I hate to say that. He apparently is successful enough to get a special on Amazon Prime or whatever. And look, he's enough people know him, wanted to come out and see him and everything, and good for him. And maybe he's been funnier in the past. I think I saw another special on there from the past, and maybe I should watch that.
Yeah, because it sounded like at the end he started talking about a story with his father-in-law with some edible gummies, and he talks about how it was in a previous special. So at some point in time, I'm going to watch that special just to see if this dude really is funny.
Maybe I need to, because this one just wasn't. I didn't feel like there was a whole lot that wasn't very predictable. Almost nothing surprised me. Nothing was like really funny to me. I don't know. The only thing I wrote down was his son was funnier. He brought his son. He brought his little 4-year-old son out.
Stole my joke.
Which one?
So I have been telling the how do you make a tissue dance joke for longer than that kid's been alive. That's for sure. How do you make a tissue dance? Put a little boogie in it. I do that in softball every time so how does it work? So the first inning of every game, throw the ball down to second, throw it around the horn, go to give it to the pitcher. He hasn't thrown a pitch yet. I play third all the time, so I get the ball last. Toss it up, walk over to the pitcher, get ready to put it in his glove, and I just look at him and I go, how you make a tissue dance? And he looks at me and I go, put a little boogie in it. And I put the ball in his glove and I turn around and walk back to third base. Because you gotta lighten the mood a little bit. And then that kid stole it, put it nationally, out on Amazon Prime Video. This kid got the most laughs. His dad laughed hardest at that joke than any other joke. And he stole it from me.
Yeah, but he's got the 4-year-old cuteness, or 6, or however old he is. I mean,
how about this 37-year-old cuteness?
I mean, I'll give you that, but
I appreciate that.
So
his son was funnier. That's rough.
His son was funnier than he was. He had better jokes. I like the way he did his jokes. I like the one-liners. You know about that? Like that? And I don't know, man. I just, like I said, I'm probably gonna have to go back and watch some other stuff because this one wasn't too good for me. I gave what I think might be sort of a generous 1.9 on this. That's it. That's what I got for Steve Trevino.
I feel it. I'm fine with that.
I don't know.
You probably thought his podcast segment was better than his.
I didn't. I did not. But and I was the same way as you. I'm like, what? I had no clue that was going to happen until it did, and then I'm like, what is really? And then I tried to give it a chance. I ended up turning it off while his mom was on. And she was starting to, I mean, you were right. They're neighbors or whatever. There was nothing happening there.
I don't even know why they were there.
And then his mom was, was a sassy gal. So she, it was a little funnier, but I mean, she was like comparing herself. She said she makes better, whatever the dish was than her ex-husband's.
Tortilla. Oh, not tortilla. Is it tortillas?
I forget what it was. I don't know. But anyway.
There's some famous things that Mexican people make all the time.
Tortillas, tacos, chimichangas.
No, I think tortilla.
Burritos.
Looks like a burrito.
Doritos, Tacos, Locos, Chinchilla. Wait, that's an animal.
Ooh, I had a chinchilla one time.
Did you?
Nope.
Okay, me either. So we gotta pick a we have to pick a special for next week and a Mount Rushmore for next week. So you're up on the Mount Rushmore. I've got the comedy special for next week. I already know what my comedy special is going to be.
Perfect. Let's go.
So I'm going to tell you slowly so that you get a chance to evaluate all of your options for Mount Rushmore. So I am going with this is brand new, just out on YouTube. Another comedian putting their own stuff out on YouTube. These guys are talking about how in a lot of ways this is better to do it this way. They have all the control over however they want to edit it. It's free, so they're not making a ton of money, but except for getting sponsors, you can get sponsors especially once you reach a certain number of hits or whatever views, you can get sponsors on that, and you get your name out there, you get your word out there, your comedy out there, and people start to follow you on other things, and you might get some other opportunities. So Sarah Tolomash, you will know her as the wife of the great Joe List.
Yes. Saw her on
Roast Battle.
what's it? Roast Battle with Joe List, which is really funny.
Yeah,
she was not the best roaster. She won because she had
because he
two
was
jokes,
terrible.
And he was terrible. Yes.
And I love Joe List. He's one of my favorite comics, but he was not good on Roast Battle. Okay, so Sarah Tolamache, I think it's Tollemache. YouTube, look it up. I'm not even sure there's a title. I think it might just be, I could be wrong about that. I will find out for sure before next week and I will let you know, but just search Sarah Tolamache on YouTube.
All right, that sounds good. So I'll tell you what, buddy. Man, I should have been a little more prepared, I guess. But here's what we're gonna do. Here's what we're gonna do today. For the Mount Rushmore, we've done 90s sitcoms. We've done Nintendo games, both of which were the first things that came to my head while I was trying to think of one to do, but I know that we've done both of those, so I'm not going to do those. I believe we've done a Mount Rushmore of pop.
Yes.
Soda, which I just looked over and thought that would be a good one. We've done chips. We've done cheesy snacks. We've done everything that I have in this room. So I am gonna go. Have we done breakfast cereal?
Yeah.
Man.
I think
so. We must
that.
do a lot of podcasts while I sit in this room and look around.
I'll tell you something.
Have we done candy? Have we done candy?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I'm glad we did candy because I wouldn't even think of that off the top of my head.
I'll tell you something that I know. I don't know if it's still there or not, but something I know used to be in the room that you're in is a Pop-A-Shot. And that makes me think of arcade games. Something
maybe. So
maybe that's a little close to Nintendo games or something, but I don't know.
No, I like that. So if we do arcade games, it's basically if it's inside, if it would be inside of a Dave and Buster's, a GameWorks, a 16-bit, or one of those little, so from anywhere from literally from like Pop-A-Shot to pinball.
Yes.
In every electronic arcade game in between. Well, I'll let you keep. Man, I'm about to use that.
You can use it. That's why I said it. I would.
No. Nope.
You said in that room, and I thought my favorite thing at your house.
I just figured it out.
Besides your whole family.
You talked about Camden Yards. You talked about Camden Yards earlier. I'm gonna go Mount Rushmore of how many ballparks have you been to?
Probably 6 or something. 6 or 7.
Including the Reds or not including the Reds?
Yeah, probably including. I've been to two ballparks for the Reds, but that, I
Right.
mean, that might be. I got to think hard about it, but I can think of
How about this?
4 right off the
The
bat.
Mount Rush places you've been, Mount Rushmore of professional, not collegiate, professional venues, professional sports venues that you've been to. They have to be that
Specifically
you've been
4
to.
games, right?
4 games.
For games, yeah. I mean, like most of those places, you can go to concerts and stuff like that too.
Yeah, no. 4 games for a game of what belongs there. Yes, for games. Correct.
Love
I
it.
thought you were saying 4 games, like specifically 4 games.
Yeah, you have
like
to have attended 4
the number
games at
4
any of the
games
ones that you
there.
pick.
Yes. No. Yes. Yes. No. Yes.
So that you have to have gone to a game at that place.
At that place. Yes.
Perfect. I love it.
I've got 2 off the top of my head. So I'm a 3, 4. Jeez, oh Pete, this is gonna be tougher than I thought.
Yeah. I mean, I have 1 for sure, probably 2 for sure. Yeah. And we've been to plenty. Yeah, I've been to plenty. So this is
All
gonna
right,
be good.
that sounds good. Well, that's what we'll do. That and then Sarah Talamash.
Tolamash. Yep.
Tolamash. All right. Well, so that gives us 3 things for next week. Next week we will have our comedy segment at the end because that's where the comedy belongs. At the end of the podcast, we will have the Mount Rushmore of professional venues that you've been to see a game. We also will have a story. Sorry, let me get it right. I wrote it down. We will have walking stories with Cracker Thug, aka Adam Schmidt, and from there, whatever sports are happening in the moment. Adam, sorry, Cracker Thug. Until then, don't forget to turn your headlights on.